Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH. Joining us from Dead by Wednesday is Opus. Opus, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, well, thank you for having me, man. It's awesome to be here and be a guest on this awesome show you got going on here.
When did you first discover your passion for music?
Oh, man, that's a long loaded question, but I could pretty much summarize it. So pretty much my older brother brought home Kiss Alive 2, and I was about maybe, I want to say 10 or 11, something like that, maybe 9. I don't remember exactly, but I was young. And it was before I even, started playing drums at all. And I listened to it and I was looking at them. And, back in the day when you had albums and you actually looked at the albums and you read the lyrics and you were like, blown away by the mystique of a band instead of like, now you could see Ozzy at the dinner table on TV, eating cereal and yelling at his kids and stuff. But back then it was like, there was a lot of mystique and there was a lot of, really awesome stuff built around bands and albums, and you didn't know what they were about or who they were, and you kind of took away what you wanted from it. So when I saw that Kiss Alive 2 and I listened to the album and I was looking at the pictures and I saw the Cat Man and the Demon and the Space Guy and all that stuff, it just kind of, I was like, this is so cool. It's like they're like superheroes, but they play music, and this is kind of what I want to do. So at that point, after I heard God of Thunder live, I'm just like, this is what I want to do. And I started basically pulling out all the pots and pans from my grandparents' house and, putting them out in the middle, out by the road, and putting on shows for people as they drive by in their cars and banging on pots and pans until I was able to get a paper route and save up enough change to basically borrow some money from my older brother and go down the street at a tag sale and pick up this really, really crappy Maxwell orange sparkly drum set that I had to like piece together with duct tape and screws and just beat on it over and over and over again. And I learned how to play drums a lot by pretty much playing along to Shout at the Devil, and just kind of like trying it over and over and over again until I was able to get my dexterity correct and annoying the crap out of all my neighbors. And then I was like, okay, well, this is something that I definitely wanted to do. And so I bought a beginner's book, how to play drums by Buddy Rich. And I started listening. I started basically, studying some of the early Buddy Rich stuff. And that's how I got better. And then once I learned how to kind of coordinate my hands and my legs, that's when I actually took lessons for about a year just to make sure that I was doing everything correctly and, figure out my posture, how to sit, how to hold the sticks and yada, 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 how to tune the drums and things like that. But really, I always say that once you know you want to do it, it's, you either do or you don't. It's like kind of like what Yoda says. There's no in between. There's no try. It's either do or don't. There is no try. And you either have a fire burning inside of you or you don't. And the fire sometimes goes down or, and goes up, but it never goes out. If it ever goes out, then your time is up. So that's kind of my analogy right there.
So in other words, there was a lot of dedication. It was a lot of commitment. It was a lot of trial and error.
Oh yeah. I mean, there still is. No one's ever perfect. No one's ever, if whenever you think you are, you're done. You're always striving for more. You're always trying to get better and perfect your craft. And it's a roller coaster ride, man. It's like one day you're up, next day you're down. I mean, literally one day I played in front of like, at Woodstock 99 in front of like, 60,000 people. And the next day, literally I was playing in West Virginia at a place called the Monkey Bar with like 17 people in front of me, and they wouldn't give me bottled water. And it was raining that day. And it was dripping on my head as I was playing drums because there was a crack in the ceiling. So it goes to show you the nature of the music business. Like it's ridiculous how bipolar it can be, in a sense.
Exactly. It's got its highs and its lows, and it sounds like you've experienced them all.
Oh yeah. You just got to stick with it and take the good with the bad. And if it's something that you really enjoy, it's like if you're doing it for all the wrong reasons, you'll never last. So, the people that want to do it for fame and fortune or, for women or for drugs or whatever the hell it may be, that ain't going to work, or even money. I mean, yeah, you're supposed to get paid. Yeah. And it's part of the business. You need to make a living, but I call it, what I do is I call it the blue collar working class musician, because nowadays there is no Led Zeppelin or Black Sabbath or Van Halen where you could play in one band and make a really, really awesome living. You have to basically put your hands in a lot of different things and wear many hats. And if you're hustling and you're doing all these different things, then you can make an honest living in the entertainment business. So like with me, I play in a Black Sabbath tribute band called Unearthed. So that tours Europe. That's a tribute band that makes good money. Then I have Dead by Wednesday, my original project. That's my art. That's my heart, my love. I actually invest more than I actually make with that band. Then I do a bunch of different TV things. I've been on a billion reality shows. I've been backgrounds on a million shows. So I make a little bit doing that. Then I run a record label called Mind Snap Music. And, we put out tons of artists. I mean, like, for example, I have an amazing album coming out by a solo artist from Joey Concepcion. It's coming out on St. Paddy's Day, March 17th. And that's an amazing solo shred album. He's played with everyone from Dark Tranquillity for a while. He filled in for Arch Enemy. I mean, he's got a bunch of stuff going on. I have another band called ESP, which features my old singer, Chris Keys from Gargantua Soul. They're from Texas, called Engineered Society Project. They have an album coming out. So I have, I'm doing the label, and then I'm doing the tribute band, the original band. I fill in for different bands here and there. Like I played with David Ellefson formerly from Megadeth for 5 years, filling in for him. I played with those guys. I played with a bunch of different artists in the past, filling in, making a little bit here and there. And then I also host trivia when I'm home from touring. And I do that weekly when I'm around. So like basically everything within the entertainment business is kind of what you have to do if you want to make an honest living. Now, like basically a Starbucks living with benefits, and that's kind of how I look at it. It's like a blue collar touring professional musician kind of thing. Otherwise, unless you're in like a nostalgia band where you're like, playing for like, I don't know, it's got to be something big, like even Overkill. I mean, I know my buddy from that band. I mean, he makes a decent living, but he still has to do other things in between. So it's like, you'd be surprised, what kind of the way the industry is nowadays, especially in the underground, like heavy metal industry. I mean, yeah, if you're playing pop, you're like a 14-year-old and you're being, sort of molded by the industry and someone's owning you and you're signed to like Sony or Universal or something. That's a little different. You're playing country pop or something like that. But for metal, man, it's a hustle, and you got to always constantly be on top of that hustle. Otherwise, you're going to crash and burn.
So it sounds like you're wearing a lot of hats.
Oh yeah, so many, all different kinds.
So tell us about that strong bond that you share with Michael.
Oh, Michael Modeste, my bass player.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we're like an Oreo cookie, man, ebony and ivory. I mean, honestly, it's like, dude, I can't love that guy more than I mean, he is one of the most consistent members of the band. That he's the only one that stuck with me from the very beginning. Mike's a funny guy, man. He actually, when I was in my old band Gargantua Soul, he would show up every week and he'd pull me aside after the show. He'd be like, "Yo, I'm better than your bass player, right?" And I'm just be like, "Yeah, you cocky bastard. Yeah, sure you are." And he would just keep doing it, keep coming, keep doing it, keep coming. Finally, I'm like, here I am. I'm towards the end of the last band and that era. I'm starting this new band, Dead by Wednesday, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? This guy keeps kind of harassing me. I'm like, I'm going to give him a shot and see put his money where his mouth is, Let's see what's up. And he came down and he just blew me away, man. That guy, he's just like an amazing bass player. And what I love about Mike is that although he's very opinionated, he can be very opinionated, and he has his mindset on his goals. He's one of those guys that he just always shows up, and he never has ever. I mean, once in a while he'll have like a family emergency or whatever, and I'll have to do a fill in for anybody. But he's always been the most consistent person. He's always shown up, and he always is like there, and he's never let me down. So it's like one of those guys that like. I will never ever, no matter what, get rid of Michael Modeste unless he leaves. So like, Like, no matter what happens, I'll always work around his situation and always, be there for him as a friend. Unless he left the band, he always has a place in Dead by Wednesday with me, because he's always stuck by my side, and he's always been a consistent, brother to me and to this band forever. So he's the one guy that out of all the members of Dead by Wednesday, singers, guitar players, he's basically the rhythm section, the bass and the drums have always remained the same, which is basically the foundation of any band. I mean, we've been the same members from the beginning. So if you look at it like, a lot of these bands, they have like 2 members left. Like, a lot of these bands that are playing out, they only have like 2 members. Well, we have the rhythm section that's been together since the very beginning of the conception of this band. So it's pretty cool that him and I stuck together this long,
Definitely. Yeah, I was going to say that's why I was asking about that. I mean, that strong connection, because, gosh, yeah, you guys are the 2 founding members, and to have been through so many highs and lows that you have been through, that just probably unites somebody.
Absolutely. Dude, I always give him a lot of credit, from a lot of different perspectives when it comes to music, and what we do and the band and just in general. I'm surprised he stuck with it as long as he has. To be honest with you, because there has been so many ups and downs, highs and lows, and for anybody, a lot of people get discouraged. He just stuck with it, and he saw through all the crap and saw what's on the horizon. There's a lot of great stuff for the band. The band's doing great, and the new album's doing great, and we're always finding ways to stand apart from all the other waves of metal bands and sort of do our own thing and still have credibility and integrity,
Exactly. And that album, Capital Conspiracy, how is it different from your previous albums?
Well, Capital Conspiracy is different. One, because it's not, I wouldn't say different, but I would say kind of full circle. It brought us back to a lot of the topics that we talked about in the beginning, discussed for a lot of the political lies that are happening, and a lot of contempt for that, and just our singer is a combat veteran who fought in Afghanistan, and he's an amazing person, and although he has a lot of respect for his fellow soldiers and for the military, he really, really questions authority and questions our government and what a lot of their agendas are. And so he sort of brought that element back into Dead by Wednesday, which I really like. And we also have a lot of songs regarding humanitarian, topics, which also I like, and that we did in the beginning. So it's sort of it's new, but it also brought a lot of the retro, it made a lot of our old school fans happy, and also that style is back too, the heavier, more aggressive style, which people liked, and I think that the production is better, being that we found our niche with our producer Nikki Belmore, who's done the last few albums, who also played with Jasta, and he plays with Dee Snider and Toxic Holocaust, and he's an amazing producer and also a drummer from Connecticut, who I'm friends with and who does all our albums now. And I think that everything was thought out properly, the artwork, just everything about it. You see the front cover with you got the Pope with a pile of money, you got the pharmaceutical person with all the pile of pills, and then you have the alcohol and the alcohol person with the bottles on the front cover. You have basically you have all the different elements of our demise on front cover, and it's like the Last Supper almost on the table, and with all these different people. The money guy, you have you have the money guy with on the front with the money suit, looks like the Joker, with a big pile of money in front of him with the Pope and smoking a cigar. And it's a really thought out concept, and it's really cool to sort of have that full circle come back into the band. And on top of it, the difference with this album was it started during the pandemic, so a lot of it was done remotely. So although a couple songs like Here Comes the Dead and a couple of songs were written as a band together once we could get together again, once everything was like sort of laxed, most of it was done like we had band meetings every Thursday via Zoom. We would jam. We would send files back and forth. I would record with a mask on in the other room with Nikki, just the drums by myself, me and him. And then all the guys have home studios, so they were able to record all their parts at home and really take the time to do it properly and not have to worry about paying hourly rates and then send in everything. And then Nikki mixed it all. So a lot of the album was done during the pandemic remotely online. So it's a bit differently than how we did in the past. And a couple songs were done together, and then we mixed it all together and we put it all together. And that's a bit different. And that's kind of the difference with this album than the other ones for the most part. But it really came out awesome, and it landed us the number one NACC metal chart when it first came out after like a couple weeks, which is really cool. And we can't be happier with it. So.
And we talked about a bunch of the different jobs that you do, in the music industry, but obviously there's some things you do outside the music industry, of course, author, and then the most important one, father. Tell us about how your son's influence on Mars in Exile.
Oh, yeah, totally. So that's another thing, too. I forgot to mention that I did recently put out a book. A lot of this stuff, a lot of these stories and a lot of these ideas and a lot of these things that I'm talking about are in the book. It's an autobiography. And I can't give the credit to all myself. Yeah, I have the stories. Yeah, I have the voice. But really the ghostwriter, Doug Esper, who worked with Chuck Mosley from former vocalist of Faith No More, R.I.P., is no longer with us. He really brought my voice to life in the book, and he did an amazing job. And I did not expect the success of the book for what it was, because I figured, I just have like a book on the merch table, no big deal. But it ended up, the week it came out, it ended up getting to like number 30 something on the top 100 Amazon music biographies. And then the second week it was like number 74 or 78 or something like that. And I did not expect that at all. So it actually did really well. The Scout Media, my awesome publisher who Doug helped me get, which is a music publisher who also did other music guys like Chuck Mosley and Dog Fashion Disco and some other artists, was super cool and super helpful and happy with everything. And, I got some great interviews in there, from Ellefson to Bumblefoot to Eric A.K. from Flotsam and Jetsam. And that's kind of how the book title came about. So the book is called Break When I'm Dead, which is obviously a title that comes from the music industry, of saying that, I'll take my break when I'm dead. But the title came from a song that Eric A.K. from Flotsam and Jetsam wrote with Dead by Wednesday when we had our issues with our former singer who had some drug problems, and he ended up leaving the band, or actually not exiting the band, via the band saying, all right, enough is enough. And then we had this awesome album written, and that was when Joey was actually in the band. Joey helped us co-write the entire album. It was called Darkest of Angels. And we didn't know what to do, so we took a negative and turned it into a positive. And that's when we got picked up by EMP Label Group, which is Ellefson's former label. And that's how my relationship really grew with him. And I started playing with Ellefson and all that stuff. But to go back to what happened was we wrote this awesome album. We recorded it. We had all these songs done, and Dead by Wednesday did all the music. But we were like, well, we don't have a vocalist. What are we going to do? So we thought we had an idea to do a guest vocalist album, which ended up being really cool. So every song was a different singer that we sort of called upon to help us, that we knew either from the industry or touring with them, or just, somehow, came about co-writing with us. And we basically hit up a bunch of our Rockstar friends, and a bunch of people came stepped up to the plate and gave us some amazing material. And that album did phenomenal. We have Brian Fair on there. We have John Arch from Fate's Warning. We have just so many people. I mean, Rob Dukes, former Exodus vocalist, who now I tour with a lot and have a great relationship with. And then Eric A.K. from Flotsam and Jetsam. And I met them when I was 15, opening for them with my old band in New Haven. And then, stayed friends with those guys, and I toured with them as a tech in Europe for a month, and then ended up opening for them with my band Dead by Wednesday a couple years ago for supporting the last album for like a month or two. And then so we called upon him, and he wrote this song called Break When I'm Dead. And that's basically about, he looked at it like, well, Opus, you know, he's a go-getter. He never stops. And, you know, he's going to break when he's dead. And so I took, when it was time to write for the title for the book, I'm like, there's no better title than this. And we had a bunch of different ideas, but that was like the number one idea. And so we took the title from the song from the guest vocalist album and made it the title of the book per Doug's suggestion. And it really worked out great. So that's that. And that book's available, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you can get books, basically worldwide. And, it's doing really well. But as far as the Mars in Exile, our new video, it's a really unique, video that's actually was inspired by my son and my son Orion, which is the Metallica song, Orion St. Lawrence. He's 9 years old. He's a Lego fanatic. I mean, he builds Legos that even like I can't do at all. Like personally, like adults cannot do. Like there's 18 plus Legos that have like, you know, basically a novel to read that you have to use to put together these things. And usually it takes like 3 to 4 weeks for an adult to do it. He'll bang those out in like 48 hours, like a madman. And I don't know how he does it, but then he had an idea. He's like, listen, we should do, he's like, 'cause he likes to film. His mom's used to be, that's how I met her. She was in TV for a while. She worked as a director and a casting director in a bunch of different reality shows. That's how I met her, like Chopped and Oddities and a bunch of other shows. And so he likes to film too. So he's like this editing, filming, like Lego maniac whiz. And he's just like, we should do a Lego video for your band. That'd be so cool. Like, cause he loves the Lego movies. And I'm like, that is an amazing original idea. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do that before. And so I started researching, and I found like this one like video made by a fan of Iron Maiden, but none of the people look like Iron Maiden, and they're just like regular Legos, just kind of like messing around to like the Iron Maiden song. So I'm like, well, we should do like a real video where like we look like we get Legos that look like each band member. We do our stage set, we do the whole 9 yards. And he started putting together the whole stage set. So he started like watching us and ordering these different like parts and different Legos that have like different skin colors and different hair and, you know, the mohawks and this and that and all this stuff. So it looks just like the band. And he built this stage set, and he started filming, doing the stop motion stuff for us. And, you know, just like realizing that, wow, that like this is way over his head. Like he could do it, but it's not the way he was envisioning it. So Jessica and myself sort of called upon, I posted a picture of the Lego set that Orion put together of the band to just online, just to say, hey, you know, check this out. My boy's doing this. And people went nuts. And this one guy who I know who's really cool, this guy Sal, who does a lot of video editing, you know, hit me up privately. He's like, dude, that's an incredible idea. We should do an animated version of this, and we can, you know, credit your boy and just take the idea and really run with it. And so I'm like, hell yeah. So he took it to another level and brought it to a guy who he knows who works in movies. And normally this would cost like, you know, probably like, God knows, I mean, 50, 60, 75, $100,000 or whatever the hell it may be to do an animated, you know, like actual Lego style video. But he was like, I'm going to do this for you guys just because your son, and because I want to try to see if I can actually do this and kind of get practice and just use it as like almost like I don't know, what would you call it, for like a job?
Yeah.
Portfolio. Yeah. He's like, I'm you know, he's still got to pay me, but it's going to be like a fraction of what it would normally would cost. And, so he did it, and he just brought my son's idea to life. And it was like a dream, dude. Like when I couldn't believe when I saw it. I was like, this is the most incredible. I mean, I'm surprised it only has like 5,000 or so views, because I figured it was going to go viral. But I think it just hasn't really gone into the hands of the right people yet. I know Lego saw it; they loved it, and we're still not like pushing it like we should, because we're kind of letting it do it organically. We're not buying numbers. We don't do that stuff. Like we're not one of those bands. Like everything that we have is organic. We have 15,000 friends. I probably shook the hands of like 14,000 of those people throughout the decades of playing. So we're letting it like kind of like fester and sort of like seep on its own. And it is growing. I mean, every day, 100 people, 100 people, 100 people, 100 people, extra 100 numbers every day. But you see these bands that like, the video is not even that good. And they're like, you're like, how the hell do they have like 300,000 views in like a week? You got to wonder about that, and they have like 4 likes and like 7 comments. At least we have like 5,500 views. It's only been out for 2 weeks, and there's like 40 something comments and like over 100 likes. So it's like, it's real. You can see that it's real. You can tell that it's real. And that's what I'm all about. I'm about being real and that kind of stuff, not this fake industry BS,
Definitely. That is awesome how you were able to help your son bring his vision to life.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's awesome. I mean, he really killed it with that.
So it sounds like there's a lot of really great things going on with your organization. I mean,
oh yeah.
We
just got booked onto the Milwaukee Metal Fest with Lamb of God. We haven't even announced it yet, but we're booked onto. We just got the Michigan Metal Fest with Born of Osiris. So we got a lot of great stuff coming up this summer. We're doing our first debut European tour. First couple weeks in April, we're going out to Europe for the first time ever and doing the tour there. So like a lot of great stuff coming up for Dead by Wednesday.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, I mean, definitely it's the place to be. And then, you mentioned about just keeping it real. Obviously you have to worry about, the robots now coming after you, I understand.
The robots?
Yeah. The AI generating the music, trying to steal.
Oh yeah. I heard about that. Yeah. Actually, Joey showed me something like that recently. Yeah, they're basically taking over our jobs. They want, now you could just say, hey, make a Metallica song that sounds like Kill 'Em All. And you just put like all these different things into a computer, and next thing you know, you got that new song from Metallica.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't become a thing, but yeah, it is.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it'll take
nothing.
off.
Nothing ever, satisfies people than a live show with people actually honing and learning and knowing their craft.
Well, Opus, it has been a pleasure having you on the show.
Hell yeah, man.
Before we let you go, where on social media, where on the web, where can we find out more about you?
All right. So for me personally, all my socials are under Opus the Dopest. So OPUS the DOPEST. All that happy horse crap for Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. But for Dead by Wednesday, the same. So for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that crap. Actually, I don't really use TikTok because that's Chinese spyware. It's under Dead by Wednesday, all one word, but you have to spell Wednesday right because everyone spells it wrong. It's WEDNESDAY, Dead by Wednesday. And the only thing that's different for Dead by Wednesday is our YouTube page, and that's the abbreviation. So it's Dead by Wednesday. I mean, it's youtube.com/DBWTV, and that's where the Lego video is and a bunch of other great videos. DBWTV on YouTube. And that's how you can find out all that stuff. Capital Conspiracy is available on all streaming and downloadable platforms, as well as my book, Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And then for any things related to the record label Mind Snap Music, you can also find that anywhere, like on all the iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, all that stuff. For any of the artists that I work with. So
it has been a real pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. It's been awesome. I really appreciate it.
Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom has products in stock and available to take home today. With 5 stores and almost 40 years in business, they are Ohio's appliance experts, and they help you to get the right product at the right price with a huge inventory. You can save 30 to 60% every day on everything from Bosch and Viking to LG, GE, and KitchenAid at unbeatable savings and in stock. Plus, Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has everything from Tempur-Pedic and Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and DreamCloud mattresses in stock. Stop by any one of Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom's 5 Ohio locations today or visit online at appliancefactory.com.
Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH joining us today from the other LA is Aria. Aria, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, shoot, I didn't even think to ask this, but I started thinking about the other LA. How many LAs are there?
Oh gosh. Well, we're originally from Louisiana. That's why we call it the other LA. Louisiana.
That makes sense now. Okay, cool. Because I'm like, ain't there only one? But yeah, you're right, Louisiana. That makes sense now. Cool. So when did you first fall in love with music?
Oh, wow. Actually, it's been my whole life, actually. I grew up around music. My parents always listened to like rock and alternative music, and I would always go to live shows when I was a child, and it was always around me, and it was part of my life and will continue to be.
So how did you learn to play the piano?
I was self-taught, actually. I was at this music store when I was around 8 years old, and I just heard a song that kept playing on the radio, and I just played. I didn't even know I could play.
Oh, cool. So it's just one of those kind of spontaneous things.
Yes.
Excellent. I mean, after that, did you go into lessons or anything?
I did, actually. I did go to piano lessons, but at the same time, I'd rather teach myself, because I was always a fan of hearing a song by ear and trying to figure it out myself.
Nice. And then what is your songwriting process?
So my bandmates will write the music first, because I can't really write lyrics on the spot. I have to listen to the music so I can figure out the tone, the mood. Is it going to be a sad song? Is it going to be an angry song? I just need to listen to the song and just get some ideas before I actually start writing.
Nice. So it's a collaborative process.
Yeah.
Nice. Recently you released your new single, I'm Not Broken, to rave reviews. How great was it to receive that support and validation from your fans, critics, and experts?
It's just insane, because we've never had a song on Octane before, and we've had the song on Spotify playlists, Apple Music playlists, and we were just shocked. We didn't realize how much love and support I'm Not Broken would get, so we're extremely grateful.
My theory is because so many people can relate to that because they have similar situations. I think that is why it is just getting such great support.
Absolutely.
Why is it important not to accept the labels that society puts on you?
Well, because life would be boring, to be honest. My whole life, I always felt like an alien on a faraway planet. I never really felt like I truly belonged in society. But I've never been a fan of following the herd and just doing what everybody else was doing, because I just thought that was extremely monotonous and boring.
Definitely. Tell us about working through the challenges that come with Asperger's and how you have been able to not just accept them, but embrace them as a gift.
I've started to really embrace it as a gift, because I realized I'm a self-taught musician. I didn't even know I could play piano. I could just play songs by ear, and I just realized oh wow, nobody else can do this. This is incredible. And for me, I've always learned to go inwards, meaning I learned to meditate a lot. That's really what helped me get through my emotions instead of being hyper. I've never been hyper emotional per se. I've always taken a step back and just listening to my thoughts, behaviors, and beliefs, and just really deciphered what they actually mean. And sometimes it's difficult because a lot of people don't understand how that works.
Definitely. I was going to say that must give you an interesting perspective on life.
Yes, absolutely.
Why do you choose to go with the crowd style vocals to emphasize the main voice Are there many voices that compete in your head?
Well, it's funny. I almost, when I have like a negative thought that comes to my mind, it's like I give it the microphone and I ask it like, okay, why are you here? What are you trying to tell me? And basically say trauma comes up and it's basically saying like, oh, you shouldn't do this because this happened before. And, you know, I'll tell that thought like, well, it's not happening anymore. So you're safe. I'm always safe in this world. And basically that thought goes away once I tell myself I am safe to feel anything in life.
What is your advice to listeners so they can avoid sinking and swimming above and swim above the sharks?
I would say just do what you think is best and just be yourself and do not be afraid to stand out. So you're not crazy for wanting to be different. Embrace your uniqueness.
Why do you have such a strong emotional connection with your audience?
I've always liked performing because it kind of gives me a channel to express my emotions in a healthy way instead of like, you know, screaming at somebody if I'm having a bad day.
So what are some of the other ways that you performed? Have you ever done theater or art or anything like that?
I was in theater for a little bit when I was in elementary school, but it's funny. I wasn't really a fan of the music. I was more into rock and roll and heavier music instead of like show tunes and everything.
Definitely. So, like if there was a Meatloaf version of a musical.
Yeah, basically.
Nice. So, with that, and then do you write any like poetry or?
Oh, absolutely. Like sometimes I'll just write poetry and if it's good, I'll actually use it in a song because it really helps me if I'm having a bad day. I'll just write what I'm feeling. I'll turn it into poetry and it can be very therapeutic for me.
Nice. I was going to say, shoot, I don't expect you to know them off the top of your head, but do you have like a favorite poem that comes to mind?
This might sound a little cliche, but I've always loved The Raven from Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was going to say, phenomenal poet. I mean, just did some amazing things over the years. And, wow. Yeah, I was going to say, can't go wrong with him.
Oh, yeah. He's actually my favorite poet of all time.
Oh, nice. And then is that where the name comes from?
What name? I'm sorry?
Your name, Aria. Isn't that one of his poems or something?
Oh, no, actually, I was named after a love song in Italian. Aria means love song.
Oh, cool. And then tell us about the other members of the other LA.
So my bass player has been with us since day one. We were both living in Louisiana when we formed the band, but a lot of the other bandmates, we were touring nonstop, and they just didn't really have the time to tour full time. So we moved to Nashville because the music scene's a lot better and there's really good producers that live up here. And we found some really good bandmates that were born and raised here. And that's how we are now. Basically, our drummer joined us about 2 years ago, and he's by far the best drummer we've ever had. He's just incredible. He's a big fan of Avenged Sevenfold. He definitely has that heavier side to him. And we just got our guitar player. He's been playing with us since 6 months ago, but he officially joined the band a couple of days ago. He's an incredible guitar player. He's more in the metalcore side, so he definitely brings us a heavier tune, which is awesome.
So in other words, the other LA has been growing and evolving and changing over the time.
Absolutely.
Nice.
It's kind of hard to keep bandmates.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I can understand with the grind of the touring and the different schedules and all have to wear on you over time.
Yes.
Well, we know that you performed with Hailstorm, and they're a friend of the show. Tell us about that experience.
So it's funny. We actually played an after party that Hailstorm was playing. It was actually a festival that Hailstorm was playing. They were headlining. We were playing the after party, and they basically checked out our band, and they just fell in love. Lizzie Hale actually lives in Nashville, and I'll occasionally see her at a rock show, which is awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to say they're great folks. We had them on for Louder Than Life last year in Kentucky. And, yeah, just really great folks. So we enjoyed having them on.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. And their music is just phenomenal. So when you're not doing music, what else are you into?
Well, it's funny. I actually go to dance nights as well. I'm a big fan of like post-punk and dark wave. I'll go to like dance nights if I'm not playing a show because that's where I can meet my friends and I can just let loose, basically.
Any pets?
I do. I have a white golden retriever named Creme Brulee, but I call her Brulee for short.
Aw, that's cool. Yeah, I was going to say, I can imagine that can be rough with being on the road so much. Does Brulee get to go with you on the tours?
Oh, no. She's not really afraid of people, but she's a rescue, so she's a little skittish. I feel like we took her on a family road trip, and she basically threw up in the car.
Oh, dang. Yeah, car sickness is never any good.
Yeah, so it would not be a good idea to bring her on the road.
So where on the social media, where on the web, where is the best place for our listeners to learn more about you and the Other LA?
So we have a Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube page, too, for tour dates. For tour updates, go on Facebook, and for basically cool photo shoots and selfies, you can go on Instagram. For video, like shorts and videos, you can go on TikTok, and YouTube is good for new music and new music videos.
Awesome. Aria, it has been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thanks for inviting me.
My pleasure.
Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom has products in stock and available to take home today. With 5 stores and almost 40 years in business, they are Ohio's appliance experts, and they help you to get the right product at the right price with a huge inventory. You can save 30 to 60% every day on everything from Bosch and Viking to LG, GE, and KitchenAid at unbeatable savings and in stock. Plus, Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has everything from Tempur-Pedic and Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and DreamCloud mattresses in stock. Stop by any one of Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom's 5 Ohio locations today or visit online at appliancefactory.com.
Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH joining us from Icons Unearthed, Fast and Furious Edition, Brian Volk-Weiss. Brian, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about Icons Unearthed, Fast and Furious.
So the premise behind the series Icons Unearthed is it's very simple. We wanted to do the deepest dives into the biggest franchise because very often, whenever a documentary is made about a big movie or a big TV show or whatever, it's usually an hour, maybe 2 hours long. And obviously, like season 1 was about Star Wars, which is now 50 years old. It's very hard to condense 50 years. I'm no math whiz, but I believe that's half a century. Into 2 hours. So what we wanted to do was just really try to be the ultimate deep dive documentary into these gigantic franchises. The other thing is we make these shows, basically by interviewing people, finding out what the story is, and then that's the documentary. So very often we are, like I know we were not the first people to make a documentary about The Simpsons, but we were the first people, I believe, to make a documentary about The Simpsons that had the resources that we did. But on top of that, like we're independent. So, like I said, we just go where the story takes us. So with Fast and Furious, which is the 3rd season, that it's the weirdest thing because it's this huge franchise. The last 4 movies have all made about $1 billion. There has never been a documentary made about any of it. So we were actually, as crazy as this sounds, despite the fact of how huge and successful these movies are, there's no making of documentary except for like little, vignettes here and there on like DVDs and stuff. So that's what the show is. It's the deepest dive into things you think you may know, but you actually really have no idea how these things came to be and how they got made and how they continue to get made.
That is awesome. I was going to say, as a fan of these series, I mean, gosh, to be able to get that insight, to be able to get that detail here and nowhere else, I mean, gosh, that is just an ultimate experience.
That's what we tried to do. So, a lot of docs, the other thing to your point is they kind of interview the same people over and over again. You know, they'll interview the director, they'll interview all the actors. But one of the things I learned from this other series we do called The Movies That Made Us, that's on Netflix, like, how many times can Bruce Willis talk about Die Hard? Like, he's always the guy. So what we've always tried to do is, you know, interview, you know, for example, this might sound obscure, but we always find this very valuable. Script supervisors. Mm-hmm. Script supervisors are always on set. They're always right next to the director. So when you interview a script supervisor, they see everything. So again, is it cool to have Bruce Willis talking about Die Hard? Yes, of course it's cool. But, like, he's an actor. He you know, the film got greenlit. He got hired. He's there for, you know, whenever they're shooting his scenes. But the script supervisor, for example, he or she is there all the time. So the information you get from an interview, you know, another type of person we always try to interview are the lawyers from the studios. Because, again, they see everything. And not only that, I guarantee you no other documentary is, you know, mining information from the lawyers and script supervisors. So that's the grand. So, like, for Fast and Furious, yes, we had Tyrese. Yes, you know, we had some of the big famous stars and the directors. But the information and the stories that we get, that's what we're trying to do with this show, is this real deep, deep dive.
That is awesome. Yeah, I was going to say, to be able to get that insight, get behind the scenes. Now, am I correct that Icons Unearthed, Fast and Furious, airs on Monday?
The last episode is Monday. So this season was 6 episodes, and it all wraps up on Monday.
Ah, shoot,
8 o'clock
missed it.
On the East Coast on Vice. I always forget to say that.
Well, then where do we go to find what we've missed? Where do we find the first 5?
Vice. They are constantly rerunning season 1, which is Star Wars, and season 2, which is Simpsons. And we actually were very lucky. We got picked up for a 4th season. And not only is that great, of course, but it's a super-sized season. So it's actually 8 episodes, and it's all about Marvel.
Oh, wow. That sounds phenomenal.
Yeah. No, it was very nice to have an extra 2 episodes because, you know, one of the challenges with making shows like this is, you know, how do you turn, you know, some of the things we cover are around 100 years old. Mm-hmm. So, like, how do you take 100 years of history and put it into an hour? So to have 8 hours instead of 6 hours, you know, as a director, that's a huge blessing.
Exactly. So there's a lot less stuff that hits the cutting room floor, because I can imagine no matter how many hours, short of being Ken Burns, there will never be enough time to fit all the great stuff in.
You're absolutely right. I'll tell you a crazy statistic. 98% of what we shoot is not used. So, I mean, there have been some interviews we've done that are over 5 hours long, and these are very, very important key interviews. Like, we interviewed Peter Laird for Toys That Made Us for 5.5 hours. We interviewed Marsha Lucas for she'd never done an interview on camera before. We got, you know, that was like a 5 or 6 hour interview. Flew to Hawaii for 1 day to shoot it, like all that kind of stuff. Both of those interviews, like I said, over 5 hours long. I would say combined, we used less than 10 minutes from each interview.
Wow. Okay, so I'm throwing this out here now. The DVD release or Blu-ray or whatever technology box set of each of the series is going to be, 50 hours long and just, oh my gosh.
Well, it's funny you say that because there's another show we do for History Channel called The Center Seat, 55 Years of Star Trek. That show, it's already aired. It was 11 hours, 11 episodes. And the Blu-ray to that is coming out later this year. And like I said, it's 11 episodes. It's a 4-disc set. 3 of those discs have the 11 episodes. The 4th disc, it is over 8 hours of interviews that we just put, we believe we have Leonard Nimoy's last interview. We have Kirstie Alley's only interview she ever did about Star Trek. We put those interviews on the disc full out. So no cuts, no nothing, raw. So based on how well Icons Unearthed has been doing, knock on wood, we are actually going to be putting out a Blu-ray set next year for the first 4 seasons. And I guarantee you there will be at least one, probably 2 discs of raw interviews, because people love that stuff.
Oh, they definitely do. I mean, gosh, just talking about it, shoot, I had so much that I wanted to ask about your favorite piece of merch from Fast and Furious. If you've rode the Universal Studio ride, there's so many great questions. But I also...
I can answer that in 1 second. I'm so glad you brought that up. So, and this is literally in Target right now. Like you could leave the studio, drive to Target, and buy it right now. That's the best part. This isn't something from like 10 years ago. They are selling a miniature house, like Vin Diesel's, Toretto's house. It's literally a small miniature plastic house that, like, it's just his house. It's, I think there's like a car glued to it or something. And I bought one. I literally have it in my gigantic toy collection because and again, I love these movies. I know, I know we're not talking about Oscar-winning films here, don't get me wrong, but the fact that there was a company, a real great company, by the way, I believe it was Jack's Pacific. That's a huge $1 billion toy company. Yeah. The fact that they were like, hey, you know what? I bet we could make houses and sell them if it says Fast and Furious. Just on general principle, that's why I bought one. But that's my favorite piece of merch from Fast and Furious so far.
Awesome. I was going to say, I know you're crazy busy, so I just wanted to touch on this and then get your social media and website out there. Obviously, you're excited about President's Day coming up. Am I right?
You are. You're very right. I like the time off.
Well, no, not the time off. The fact that you have 3 kids named after presidents. I'm sure you're a pretty big Presidents fan.
Oh, okay. All right. You did some research. I'm not used to that. Okay. Yes. All 3 of my children are named after U.S. presidents, and unfortunately, only one of them is typically talked about on President's Day and is on Mount Rushmore. But I would argue strenuously that Grant, who is my second child's name, should be equally celebrated on President's Day. If you're going to celebrate Lincoln, in my opinion, you got to celebrate Grant too.
Awesome. Well, definitely our listeners...
Kind of like a package deal.
Exactly. Our listeners are definitely going to check out Icons Unearthed, Fast and Furious, Monday at 9 p.m. on Vice TV. Thank you for joining us, Brian.
Thank you for having me.
Appliance Factory in Mattress Kingdom has products in stock and available to take home today. With 5 stores and almost 40 years in business, they are Ohio's appliance experts, and they help you to get the right product at the right price with a huge inventory. You can save 30 to 60% every day on everything from Bosch and Viking to LG, GE, and KitchenAid at unbeatable savings and in stock. Plus, Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has everything from Tempur-Pedic and Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and DreamCloud mattresses in stock. Stop by any one of Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom's 5 Ohio locations today or visit online at appliancefactory.com.
Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH joining us today. He is the directing staff agent for Special Forces, the world's toughest test on Fox, Billy Billingham. Billy, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, James. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you and the whole of Cincinnati, I hope.
So what is Special Forces' world's toughest test?
Basically, it's designed on the basis of the mentality and the physical challenges of what the Special Forces go through. That's both across the here and across the pond, so in America and UK, which is without a shadow of doubt one of the hardest tests known to human beings. And what it is, we put normal civilians in the UK, we do, and celebrities through that mindset and those challenges. Just to feel them back, to show them who they really are. Everybody says they can't. I can't do that. Well, you can do. You can do a lot more than you think you can do. And the Special Forces course pushes you through to a point where you do, physically and mentally, go to a place that you never dreamed you could go to. And that's basically what it's all about. It's not rehearsed. There's no script. There's no retake. There's no rest. It's run, for us as directing staff, it's run like a course, like a military course. It just happens to be filmed. You're spoken to like you would be in the military. You are deprived of food. You're deprived of sleep. You are pushed to a place sometimes you do not want to go. You are tested on everything from ice, depth, water, claustrophobia, every fear to prove you can go, as I always say, a little bit further.
Wow. So the other day we had a host from the Game Show Network, and I was like, hey, can I be a part of your show? Yeah, you don't have to worry. I'm not going to be like, hey, can I be a part of your show? That sounds really challenging.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, it is challenging, absolutely. But the course is not like some sort of Spartan challenge where everybody's got to be super fit, everyone's got to be super strong. It's not about that. Every single person is judged on their own merits, and your 100% with a difference to my 100%. Because that's all we're asking from you is 100% commitment, physically and mentally, and that's what we ask for. And so, you know, a smaller person of lighter stature is probably not going to keep up with some athletic sprinter. However, we'll test them at their capability. Every single person. That's why you see more female, smaller guys going to a place beyond bigger guys, because we get tested in everything. So it's a fairest sort of system you can have, you know, where the truth is, it all comes down to the mind. Those with the strongest minds will go that further and do that much better. And if you've watched the show, you'll see you've got small, you know, like Beverly Mitchell is tiny, going further than some of the bigger guys. And that's just got a mindset. She believes in what she can do, or starts to, you know, not be afraid of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and pushing herself. And that's what we do. We push them to a place without obviously hurting or injuring or creating any damage, but to a place that we know they can go to, but they never did.
So how is being the direct staffed agent different from being the host on this show?
The direct staff, it's like I was a directing staff in the Special Forces and in the normal military before I went to Special Forces. So to me, I treat it just like a course, like I'm back in the military. So that's the difference. We're not celebrities. We're not directors as such. But it goes along of our say of what we believe. No one gets, no producer tells us how to do it. We decide how to do it. But it's all based on our experience of actually doing it for real, you know. So it works perfectly for us. It's just like being back in the military, but it gets filmed, and we get to push people through their faces, and we love it.
Oh, wow. I was going to say, it sounds like it's going to be intense. It sounds like it's going to be open. Sounds like it's going to be honest, and it sounds exciting. Our listeners definitely are wanting to tune in. So of course, it'll be on Fox, but for those who missed the original airing on Fox, what is the best way to watch Special Forces World's Toughest Test?
You can, if you don't see it on Fox, you can get it on catch up on Hulu. It's been shown on there I think it's every Thursday. The actual show goes out on a Wednesday, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending on which side of the US you are. And then it's on the next day on Hulu, I believe, around, 8 or 9 o'clock, depending on which side of the coast you are. So, yeah, Hulu, you can see it.
I was going to say, I don't expect you to name all 16, but could you give us a rundown of the contestants?
Yeah, I mean, there's everything from Kate Gosling to Beverly Mitchell, Anna Brown, Carly Lloyd, Dwight Howard, great basketball player. You've got Mike Piazza, you've got Anthony Scaramucci, you've got Danny Amendola, Just Kenworthy. You've got everything from athletes to politicians to people who've just been on celebrity shows. So it's a great mix of people, And one thing for all of those people that come on the show, no matter where they leave, whether it's on day one or get to the end, everybody leaves a better person, a better version of themselves. And for those in that team, that contestants, they become friends forever. It's almost like being in the military. It creates such a great camaraderie. So yeah, that's just to name a few of the celebrities that are on there.
I'm throwing out my two picks for, I don't know if there's a winner or whatnot, but the two that I think are going to do the best are Natasha. Is it Natasha Lunkin, the gymnast? Yeah, I think her and Gus. I think those two are going to be phenomenal.
I think you've got a good couple of choices, but watch and be surprised, I think.
Do the recruits have any of the recruits have any military experience?
No, No, I think there's a few of the recruits that I've had family that have been in the military. I know a couple of contestants, their fathers were military, and I think that's possibly one of the reasons why they decided to do the show, is to see what their parent went through, during their time being in the military. And they have, but no, there's no one with any real sort of military background or training.
Okay, so there's no secret advantage like Danny Amendola. He was, in the recruits or reserves for 5 years or whatever, that kind of thing.
No. I mean, all that due diligence and checks that's done by the production team, we have nothing to do with any of that anyway as directing staff. We don't even know who the contestants are until the day they turn up.
Oh, wow.
We don't know anything about their backstories we're not allowed to know anything about their backstories or, anything about them. As you watch the show, you'll see they get interviewed, and that's when we start to get information out of people, their backstory, their past life, who they really are. Especially for us as Brits as well. There's 2 Brits and 2 Americans. And it's obviously an American show. I had no idea of anyone on that show other than one British contestant, which was Mel B from Spice Girls. Who, again, she did fantastic. But no, I mean, we don't know anything about them.
Is she the one that was the Spice Girl?
That's correct, yeah. She was Scary Spice.
Oh, neat. So it sounds like you've got a great mix of cast. It sounds like it's going to be an intense, action-packed, entertaining show. So before we let you go, we're on social media. Where's the best place to find out Special Forces World's Toughest Test?
If you go onto Instagram at Reality Fox, you'll get updates on that all the time. You can follow me at Billingham22B on Instagram. You'll see all our feeds, and from there you'll see the rest of the directing staff, and you'll see as the build up to each show, and then the sort of aftermath discussions about how people have done. So yeah, it's interesting to follow us.
Excellent. Well, Billy, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
And likewise, James. Take care, mate. Stay safe.
Thank you for tuning in to this Dream House, brought to you by Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom. We look forward to seeing you again next week.